I haven't said
So
much. I haven't said much about this. I've kind of allowed the you guys to kind of get in your opinions, and I'm gonna kind of share mine now. First of all, I agree with Big Rube. There's certain jobs that I just have a hard time with striking. I'm not unionized. I've never been unionized. I can't understand or relate to the mentality of a union because I've never been a part of one. I've never had the kind of job where, I had a union working for me and my rights and things of that sort. And if we felt like we weren't getting what we wanted, we walked off the job. So in that sense, I can't understand why you would do it in certain instances. As far as sports, which is where my expertise is, I kind of get it. You know what I mean? Because it's about your money. And when it's about your money, it's a little bit different. But it's a little bit different than it being about your money in sports than it is about certain jobs that have direct social impact with regards to the community. Police officers. If the police officers strike, you mess around and end up having to bring in the military, and you got a police state on your hands. If the fire department strikes, you got houses burning down all over town. Nobody's putting them out, and then your property value goes down. Then you got other issues going on. If the teachers go on strike, you're going to have 350,000 kids in Chicago who haven't been in school for the last week, and what's going on with them. Now, I want to segue, and we can still talk about the strike, but I want to segue into something else. 350,000 kids are on the street now in a town where we know has an obnoxiously high murder rate. They've got over one murder a day since 1965, literally, okay? And I just pulled a few numbers over the last 5 years, starting in '08. You had 513, 459, 439, 433, and in this year, 2012, they're projected to have 505 murders in the city of Chicago this year alone, which averages out a 5-year average of just under 470 people a year get murdered. Now, I haven't watched the news as far as anything in Chicago other than the teacher strike, but my guess is if you're putting 350,000 kids on the street indefinitely, you got to figure that those numbers are not going to go down. So my question is this, and I'm going to bring this to the panel. Tiffany, you can start it off if you want to. And when you mentioned them tearing down the projects, I heard about Cabrini Green. And for those who don't know, Cabrini Green is the projects that we saw in Good Times. That's what those were. When you saw those beginning cuts, those photos, that's what that was. And we tearing down projects in Jersey City. I'm pretty sure everyone of the high rises at least is gone. Curry Woods is gone. Duncan Projects is gone for my Jersey City listeners. So my question is this to the panel. I'm gonna start with you, Big Rube, because you and I are kind of on the same page with regards to this. Tiffany, I want you to jump in after Ruben. You're putting these kids on the street when you know that there's already a high gang element and there's already a high murder rate. What's your thoughts on how those two things reconcile? Because to me, it makes me really uncomfortable. Like I said, I didn't do any numbers to see if it's spiked in the last week. But, I mean, we had weekends in Chicago where 40 people get shot. So a spike is probably not even going to be noticeable. Big Rope?
I mean, to me, it's just like you're putting kids out there with, like you said, gangs. And let's just segue from gangs a little bit because that is what it is. What about the pedophiles? I mean, you're putting all these kids out there basically saying, hi, pedophiles, come see me. I mean, that's insane. You can say what you want, Banks, but pedophiles are about 1 every 5 people or are a sex offender.
Right.
I mean, so
I don't know the number, but
it's high. So a legitimate sex offender. So you have parents who have to go to work, and then their kids are either at home or they gotta pay for a babysitter. And let's just be honest, that the average ain't good for the kids.
Okay, Ruben, I had that look because regardless of if they're in school or not, a pedophile is going to find them. So that's not.
I think the point.
relevant.
I think
they're more accessible now.
The point that he was making is the fact that they're not in school, and there's going to be. And we can say what we want. People in our age group, we was latchkey kids. They may not have as many latchkey kids now, with the missing children and etam pets and cats like that, but. We was latchkey kids, and you got to figure 350,000 kids on the street. All of them ain't sitting at home with grandma. Nah. A lot of them is at home chilling. You know what I mean? So Tiffany, I'm gonna let you make your point on this one at this point, but just to kind of finish up this last point, I agree with Big Rube on that one because, who knows what the actual number is, but you got a lot of kids on the street And it's not just about the murder rate. It's about them being able to get into trouble, and they're sitting in front of the TV and doing all kinds of who knows what. Maybe they get bored, they slip out the house. Tiffany, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I feel like this. And just so you know, it's not just 350,000 kids on the street just went a while or whatever. They did set up, quote unquote, safe havens for parents to drop who had to work or whatever to drop off their kids, and there were certain like churches and all right, shh. I'm sorry.
It's okay, Mom. It's okay, Mommy.
So there were places to drop off kids that if you really needed it. I feel, and this again goes back to the issue, and there's no solution. Again, it takes two parties to negotiate. And as a parent, we've been watching this all summer. We knew what was going on, that there could be a possibility of a strike or not. If I was the parent of a child in a public school that would be affected by this, I would have had my behind in front of the school board. Hey, wait a minute. They have community meetings. They have school board meetings that are open to the public. Why were the parents not there like, hey, y'all got to come to some kind of agreement?
You know what, though?
Come on.
It's good that you make that point.
It's not just squarely on the teachers. Everybody shares in this collectively.
That's a very good point. Hakeem is hitting us again. He's agreeing with Big Rube. It's a difference between public and private. They don't generate the wealth. Their salaries are subsidized totally by the public. How are you not going to work for the people that pay you? That's Hakeem. But I agree that you need to, as parents, remember your role in this, because a lot of times when you see these city council meetings, oftentimes you see they'll have news coverage, and not just in Chicago, but just even here in Richmond, Virginia. And you look around and you don't see any participation at all. You might see a few parents, Mrs. J is an educator, and I oftentimes listen to her, share with me, about the fact that the parent participation may or may not. I don't know if the parents would have been able to have any kind of direct influence on this one, but it's definitely certainly something that warrants some sort of mention.
It does, and it makes a difference. Just their presence alone makes a difference, because when they don't show up, it's basically the two sides going back and forth, and you forget that other entity that's involved. You completely forget about them. It's almost like, oh, they don't care. We're just going to sit here and battle. So their presence alone makes a difference. It may not have gotten a deal done, but just to know, oh my God, we have these parents out here. Let's not forget that.
It's interesting how things come full circle, because in June we were talking about how parents don't go to PTA meetings and things of that such. And now, probably by the fact they didn't go to any of those school board meetings, they didn't go when they were talking about it, is why we have 350,000 kids not in school.
Why are you looking at me when you say
I'm
that?
not. I'm just looking at you because you're right there.
Well, you're right. I mean, we did. We talked about this in the Tune and Lube that Big Rube led us in. You had a 3-part series. In the first part, we talked about parental participation, Tiffany, and the fact that oftentimes you didn't have it. And I think, to kind of piggyback on April's point, I don't know that it would have directly influenced, but, I'll give you an example. I work for a company where I've got a customer, and you do your job a little bit differently when your customer is standing over you, watching you do it. And the parent and the teachers in this particular analogy are the customer. And if the parents had been showing up, Tiffany, maybe things might be different. You think so?
Absolutely. When you're not, if I'm not interested in my child's education, how can I expect you to take my child out of a child of 30 or 40 and take an interest? You're the first teachers. We are as parents.
Exactly.
That's my. I'm a working mom. I have a regular job as to support my family, but my first job, first and foremost, is mommy.
Right.
And like I tell everyone, this is a long-term investment.
Right. It's lifetime.
I'm doing the work now for the big payoff later.
Right. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. We're going to have to leave it there. We need to take our final break so that we can begin our rants and our closings. Before we do that, I want to thank our guest, Tiffany Miller, resident of Chicago, for coming in and giving you a round of applause, Tiff. Appreciate your insight. We appreciate your passion. And thank you so much for joining us. You're welcome anytime. If there's any developments, feel free to call us up and let us know about it. If you happen to be listening and you hear something that has nothing to do with Chicago, but you want to get down with Ain't No Half Stepping with Marcus J., Jay, once again, always welcome. You're a family of this show. If you've been on once, you're family. So we appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys listening to my little opinions.
Well, that was your that was funny. That was your rant, and we about to go into our rants. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. We're gonna take our final break of the night. When we come back, we got the rants, we got the closings. Got a little bit of Outcast for you too. That's that for us.
They scared of that. It's that time, folks. Let's do it.
All right, then let's do both of them.